What's up guys, my name is Roderick and welcome back to another video. Today in this video I'm going to be going over Miguel vs Hawk throughout all the seasons. These two characters have fought many different times, so ultimately let's see who's the better fighter between both characters. If you guys are new to the channel and like Cobra Kai content, then I would recommend you click the subscribe button and click the bell icon so you guys will be notified and you guys won't miss a new video. With that being said, let's dive right into the topic, Miguel vs Hawk all seasons. Okay, starting with season 1, it's going to be really obvious. I'm not going to spend too long on it because it's just really easy. So, season 1 is clearly Miguel. He's the better fighter, because Johnny literally says that Miguel is his best student, and he also says that he's the only chance he has at winning the tournament. And I know that Hawk is in Cobra Kai, and he was training with Miguel, but Miguel has overall more experience, and he fought Kyler and his friends in the cafeteria. Another reason on why Miguel is better than Hawk in Season 1 is because Miguel can fight Robbie, and I know that Robbie was injured and all that, I'll just get to that in a minute. But if Hawk never injured Robbie and fought fairly, I would actually think that Robbie would have just won the fight. This is because that he was focused again, and then he would probably just throw Hawk off balance and just defeat him. So I would just have to give the win to Miguel for Season 1. Okay, moving on to Season 2. This shouldn't be hard either to cover due to the obvious, just like in Season 1. We first know that in the beginning of Season 2, Johnny still states that Miguel is his best student, and he tells Miguel that he has a potential to be better than he ever was, and it's also pretty obvious that Miguel is better in Season 2 than Hawk because of the fact that Miguel beats Hawk at Coyote Creek. Plus, Hawk gets no major buff until the end of the season, where we see him in the school fight. So it's clear to say that Miguel is better than Hawk in this season due to him just literally beating him. So that means that Miguel so far is 2 for 2. Now moving on to Season 3, and this is where things get controversial. We see throughout the season that Hawk is still training while Miguel is recovering in the hospital. Most people think that Miguel didn't have any training this season, but he did learn the drum technique from Sam. And this also means that Miguel is still his Season 2 self when it comes to skill. Although Hawk is overrated in this season, it's clear to say that Hawk is the better fighter. This is because Kyler was beating the shit out of Miguel, and this was before he even got his resolve amp, so therefore it's clear to say that Hawk is the winner. Okay, now moving on to Season 4. We can now discuss more details about this season and see who is the better fighter. Now, the first thing I'm going to say is that I 100% think that Hawk is the better fighter than Miguel in Season 4 because he beats Robbie fair and square, and both of them were at their highest peaks and none of them were holding back. On the other hand, Miguel gets mentally nerfed after what Robbie says to him at prom, so this makes Miguel lose focus about the tournament and just gets completely butthurt. And then, so basically, that's basically it. So yeah, Hawk beats Robbie, who is over Miguel, and as simple as that. So for the winner for Season 4, I'm going to give it to Hawk. Okay, now moving on to Season 5. And the first thing I'm going to say is that Hawk gets a big nerf during this season for 2 reasons. 1, he loses to Kenny from the silver bullet, and 2, he gets hit by Kyler many different times. We see that Hawk can barely recover from the silver bullet and has to forfeit, but when Robbie gets hit with the same move, we can see that he keeps his senses open about himself, implying that Hawk is a weaker fighter than Robbie. Moving back to Kyler, we see him land different shots on Hawk, but in the tournament, Hawk was able to 3-0 Kyler without any problem. It's like Hawk went down Kyler's level or below his level because he can't even perform well against him. So with that being said, I think it's fair to say that Miguel and Robbie are above Hawk in this season, not to mention the fact that Hawk was struggling against the silver bullet. So with that, I give Season 5 to Miguel. Moving on to Season 6 Part 1, I think it's clear to say that Miguel takes his part due to the fact that Hawk was nerfed again in this season. This is simply because Hawk does not get special training in the dojo as well as Miguel, Robbie, Sam, and Tori, who at this point were all able to get more flags than everyone else in the flag game training. And not to mention the fact that Hawk not only gets tripped by Devin, implying that Hawk is weaker, but also gets beaten by Dimitri once again, so it's fair to say that Miguel is the winner. Moving on to Season 6 Part 2, it's clear to say without anything that Miguel beats Hawk. Miguel was the best student on the Miyagi-Do team. He mostly carried them to a victory. And on the other hand, that we see that Hawk gets into a fight with Yoon in the first round of the Sekai Tekai, and we see him struggle, while on the other hand, Miguel lands a couple of hits on Yoon while taking a 2v1. I know I just didn't really talk about part 2 that much. I talked about it just for a brief second because it's so obvious. So, without being said, the clear winner is Miguel. So, I don't want to cover so much on part 2 because I already basically went over part 2 on Miguel's side, and I went over Hawk's side with Hawk versus Yoon and Miguel versus Robbie in part 2. And if you haven't seen those videos, you guys should check it out. And lastly, we're moving on to part 3 of season 6, and I know that part 3 hasn't even released yet, but one of the writers posted something about Hawk's character in part 3, and I think this is really interesting. There's a comment on Twitter named Nicholas. He asked Hayden Schwarzberg, one of the writers, a question about Hawk. He replies, "Will the Hawk have any good highlights in this part 3? Because since the 5th season, Hawk hasn't been like this before. First he lost to Kenny, then in the 6th season, part 1, he lost his place to Dimitri. Part 2, he almost didn't do anything. Their fans aren't liking this." And Hayden Schwarzberg responds back to, "No, Hawk's fighting has ended in part 2. Hawk has never been weak, and he lost to Kenny because the ref cheated and Kenny used a special move on him. Hawk is his strongest in season 6, and unfortunately he got cocky during the evaluations and lost his chance to be captain." After hearing this comment from one of the writers, I feel like Hawk won't have a big role in part 3. His character hasn't had any development since season 4, and I think that's where it had ended. We saw Hawk grow into a bullied teen, into the Hawk, and then in season 2, he was going down a darker path. Season 3 was probably his darkest, and then we see in season 4, he moves to Miyagi-Do, and that's where his whole character turns around. And at this point, seeing that seasons 5 and 6 are out the way now, I feel like the seasons have nothing to do with Hawk that much anymore. And I think it's just focusing on more of the other characters since his character's pretty much done now at this point. So I give the win to Miguel for season 6, part 3. So at this point, I did go over my notes again, and I did review on who won each season. So for season 1, we have the winner for Miguel. Season 2, Miguel again. Season 3, Hawk. Season 4, Hawk. Season 5, Miguel. And then every single part goes to Miguel, which meaning that Hawk only won 2 times for seasons 3 and 4, while Miguel won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Hawk's character has been nerfed throughout the time, and I think it's just done at this point. They are focusing on Miguel's story still, kind of, after the Sekai Tekai. I wonder what happens after the Sekai Tekai, since there's 5 more episodes left, and I'm excited. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys have any other comments or any recommendations you want me to do for any other character, please let me know down in the comments. And without being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Peace out.